You know, money is changing so fast, it's hard to keep up. But what if the biggest revolution isn't some shiny new app or another cryptocurrency? What if it's the fundamental plumbing that connects everything? Today, we're going to dive into a new framework called digital local currency, and we're going to see how it proposes to rewire the very architecture of money itself. Our story kicks off with a real head scratcher, set in a country that's literally at the crossroads of continents and finance. And it's a place that shows us a deep, deep contradiction at the heart of our shift to a cashless world. Okay, so picture this. Istanbul, we're talking 2017. At the time, Turkey had more card payment terminals than anywhere else in Europe. They had over 170 million cards in circulation. I mean, the technology was absolutely world-class. And yet, cash was still stubbornly king. This paradox is our starting point. And the scale of this disconnect is just staggering. In 2017, even with all that cutting-edge infrastructure, a whopping 44% of the population was unbanked. They were living almost completely outside the formal financial system. And this is where you see the real problem. People had the cards, right? But they were just using them as keys to get cash out of ATMs, not to actually pay for things. The value of ATM withdrawals was a massive 10 times greater than digital shopping. This is the cashless paradox in a nutshell. Having the tech is one thing, but changing how people actually behave, that's a whole different ballgame. And look, this isn't just a Turkish problem. This reliance on physical cash creates these huge, often hidden, costs for the entire global economy. Let's break down the numbers. First off, just the logistics of printing, securing, and moving physical money around eats up to 1.5% of global GDP every single year. Then, you've got the fact that cash is the lifeblood of the shadow economy, all those untaxed deals that can make up almost a third of the economy in emerging markets. And finally, for the world's most vulnerable people, like migrant workers, sending money home costs them an average of 6.4% in fees. That is a huge tax on their hard-earned wages. So, how have countries tried to fix this? Well, the approaches have been pretty extreme. You have Sweden, which built such a perfect, seamless digital system that people just stopped using cash on their own. And then you have India, which took this incredibly radical approach, basically invalidating 85% of its cash overnight. It forced a sudden and pretty chaotic shift to digital. Other countries have tried all sorts of things. Nigeria tried to make cash inconvenient by setting withdrawal limits. In a Colombian town, a mobile money experiment kind of fizzled out because you couldn't pay for everything you needed digitally. So the takeaway here, the really crucial point is this. Just building the infrastructure is not enough. To get people to leave cash behind for good, the digital system has to be a complete, closed loop where you can do everything you need to. And this is where our main topic really comes into play. What if the answer isn't another app or another card, but a completely new type of financial architecture, a whole new set of pipes for the entire system? Okay, so let's be super clear about what digital local currency, or DLC, is. And maybe it's easier to start with what it isn't. It is not a new Bitcoin. It's not another digital wallet. The best way to think about it is as a regulatory and tech framework. It's the shared plumbing, or the foundational train tracks, that lets a country's existing banks and fintechs all connect and work together perfectly, especially across borders. The whole philosophy here is syndication over competition. DLC doesn't want to replace your bank. It wants to give your bank and every other financial service out there a common set of rails to run on, so they can all focus on creating better products for you instead of wasting money building the same expensive infrastructure over and over again. All right, so that's the big idea. But how does this new plumbing actually work in the real world? Well, it all boils down to three simple, really powerful pillars that cover the entire journey of money. These pillars are buy, which is the front door into the system, keep, which is how the money is held, and spend, which is how you use it. And together they create that essential closed loop we were talking about earlier. Let's start with BYU. Imagine it's the middle of the night and an international student has an emergency. Their parent can just open their normal, everyday banking app, the one they already know and trust, buy the foreign currency, and send it directly to their kid's local account abroad. The money shows up instantly. We're not talking 3 business days later. It's secure, it's regulated, and it's immediate. Now, the second pillar introduces this really mind-bending concept, and this phrase just captures it perfectly. It's all about where the money lives once it's been sent. This is Pillar 2, Keep. So picture a worker from the Philippines who's in the UAE. They can open a real regulated bank account in the UAE, but they can manage it entirely from their home banking app back in the Philippines. Their salary gets paid locally into that UAE account. This is a game changer. It gives them full control, and for the very first time, it gives both governments total transparency on wages and remittances. Suddenly, the formal system is just better than the informal one. And that brings us to the final piece. Pillar 3, Spend. This is what closes the loop. A tourist in Brazil can pay a street vendor by scanning a local QR code directly from their account back home. The experience for them feels exactly like what a local does, but the impact is enormous. That cash transaction, which used to be invisible to the government, is now a formal, digital, and taxable event. You're not fighting the shadow economy, you're just making it obsolete. Now, when you start to connect these three pillars on a national scale, well, the implications are just huge. This isn't just about making things more convenient. It's about fundamentally redrawing a country's entire economic map. What's so powerful here is that DLC tackles the flow of money in both directions. For money coming into the country, from tourism, for example, it captures billions that were previously invisible cash. And for money going out, like for students studying abroad, it gives people a safe official way to do it so they don't have to turn to unregulated black markets for foreign currency. It basically seals all the leaks in the national economy. And we're not talking about small amounts of money here. Just take tourism. In a city like Istanbul, tourists spend over $13 billion a year. A huge portion of that has always been in cash, completely off the books. A system like DLC is designed to make that entire flow digital, visible, and part of the formal economy. So, the strategy here is the key takeaway. You don't win by banning cash or by punishing people who use it, no. You win by building a formal digital system that is simply better on every single metric. A system that is cheaper, faster, and safer than any of the informal alternatives. You just outcompete them. So to wrap it all up, the DLC proposition is incredibly powerful. It lets countries keep control over their own currency. It slashes fees for everybody. It brings people who are financially excluded into the system. It gives governments an accurate, real-time picture of their economy. And it helps manage that shift to a cashless society in a way that's actually fair for everyone involved. And all of this leads us to the final, really big question, doesn't it? This kind of technology gives us incredible benefits, efficiency, transparency, you name it. But it also changes the whole game. As we build this future, we have to ask ourselves, in a world where every single transaction is visible, where do we draw the line? What is the right balance between the power of government oversight and our fundamental right to personal privacy? That right there is the conversation we all need to start having.